video is for lessons 7.3 and 7.4, adding and subtracting expressions. This lesson is very similar to the previous lessons that we have done. You'll notice some minor differences, but essentially we are going to be using the same strategies we learned for combining like terms to add and subtract expressions. So let's take a look at this first example. This should be in your notes. Basically, what we're doing here that's slightly different than what we did in the last lesson is we're adding and subtracting quantities versus just adding and subtracting individual terms. So what I mean by that is we are adding the quantity of 4 plus 5 to the quantity of x plus 3. So in other words, if I knew what x was, I would have to evaluate each individual quantity first before adding them together. Since I don't know what x is, I can simplify this, but I have to be very careful how I do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by rewriting the first quantity, 4x plus 5. Since there's nothing in front of it, I'm not doing anything else to it, so I can get rid of the parentheses and just rewrite it as 4x plus 5. And then I'm going to add this whole second quantity onto the first quantity. So basically, I'm adding not just the x, but I'm also adding the 3 on. So I'm going to write plus x and then plus a positive 3, which is just plus 3. So I'm going to start by rewriting, step 1, rewrite this expression or addition problem with no parentheses by adding both terms in the second quantity. Now I'm going to find my like terms, which are 4x and a plus x. And then my other like terms are plus 5 and plus 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite like we did in the last lesson so that the x's are right next to each other and the 5 and the 3 are right next to each other. 4x plus x is 5x. Remember, there's a 1 in front of the x, so that's 5x. 5 plus 3 is 8, and then remember we stick a plus sign between our two answers, or two parts of our expression for our final answer of 5x plus 8. Let's go ahead and try another example. This one's a little trickier because we have some negatives and some subtraction signs. So first thing you're going to do is rewrite this addition problem without any parentheses. So again, the first quantity will never change. So negative 3x plus 7 will stay the same. Then you're going to add 7x to it. And then you're also going to add this minus 2. So you're going to add a minus 2, which becomes plus a negative 2. So here's where you have to be very, very, very careful. You can't just ignore this subtraction sign because it is a minus 2. So when I add the 2, I have to make sure I'm adding a negative 2. So be very careful. Now I'm going to find my like terms, negative 3x and plus 7x. We also have plus 7 and plus a negative 2. So for step 2, I'm going to rewrite this so that my x terms are right next to each other. Don't forget to take the sign that comes in front of each term with it. So that's why when I am rewriting this, that's how I know what goes in between them, is that it's the one that comes in front in the original problem. So negative 3x plus 7x, that's 4x. And then we have 7, a positive 7, plus a negative 2, which is 5. And then we put a plus sign in between the two terms for our final answer of 4x plus 5. Okay, make sure you have that all written in your notes. If you don't, go back and make sure you write it down. Otherwise, let's try some on our own. For the first example, if you rewrite this with no parentheses, you would just get 3x plus 4 plus 2x plus a positive 1, which is the same as just plus 1. 3x plus 2x. It's all addition, so that's 5x, and then 4 plus 1 is 5. Put a plus sign in between for our final answer of 5x plus 5. For our second example, you're going to make sure you're adding a -2, so don't forget to include that negative sign in front of the 2x when you get rid of the parentheses. And then here we only have one pair of like terms, which is -4x, and a -2x, which is -6x, plus 2 is our final answer. Okay, we're going to try some subtracting expressions, which is a bit more complicated than adding. So when you are subtracting expressions, you have to remember that you're not only subtracting the first term in the second quantity, but you are subtracting also the second term in the second quantity. So this whole second quantity is being subtracted, not just the 2x, but also the +1. So when we rewrite this, it's going to look like this: 8x plus 2 minus 2x, but also minus a plus or a +1. So I can write -1. Step 2 is that we're going to rewrite it so that our like terms are side by side. So we have 8x minus 2x, and then we have a +2 and a -1. So we have, combining our like terms, we get 6x, we get 1, and then we put a plus sign in between for our final answer of 6x plus 1. Again, make sure you're writing this down in your notes. Let's try another example. This one is really tough. Look at all of those minuses and the negatives. So take your time on this one. Make sure you really understand exactly what's happening here. So step 1, rewrite this subtraction problem without the parentheses. So first quantity won't change because that's what we're starting with. Second quantity is being subtracted from the first. So I'm subtracting a -7x minus a -7x, making sure I include both of those, minus and the negative. And then I'm also subtracting a -4. So again, we need minus a -4 or minus a -4. Same thing. Don't be so concerned about whether it's a minus or a negative because they mean the same thing. Before I do anything else, I'm just going to fix this up a little bit. Get rid of those double negatives, make them pluses. That looks much less scary with the pluses instead of the double negatives. Next, we're going to put our like terms next to each other. -3x plus 7x. Then we have a -9 and a +4. For our final step, -3x plus 7x is 4x. And here, be very careful. This is a minus or a -9 plus 4. That's a -5. Okay, make sure you're looking at that minus sign in front of the 9. Then for your final answer, to put these two together, you can leave it like that as 4x minus 5, or you can put a plus sign and make it 4x plus a -5. Either answer is fine because adding a -5 and subtracting 5 are the same thing. Okay, let's try 2 on your own. For example 1, you should have gotten 7x plus 5 minus 2x minus the +1. If I rewrite it with the like terms in order, 7x minus 2x and plus 5 minus 1, so that becomes 5x. 7 minus 2 is 5x. 5 minus 1 is 4. Put a plus sign in between for our final answer of 5x plus 4. For our second example, 6x minus 4 stays the same, and then you're subtracting a 2x, and you're subtracting a 4. Rewriting this so that the like terms are next to each other, we have 6x minus 2x, and then we have -4 and a -4, so we have -4 minus 4. when we actually combine this, 6 minus 2x is 4x, and then we have a minus 4 and a minus 4. That is minus 8. So 4x minus 8, or 4x plus a negative 8 is what you should have for this second answer. And that is not correct. This should be a 4. Okay, let's take a look at one other example. Kelly built a rectangular deck on her house. As soon as I see that, I tend to draw a picture right away. The length of the deck is 5x plus 1 feet, and the width is 3x minus 2 feet. How much greater is the length than the width? That's going to tell us that we need to subtract. So we're going to make sure we set up our problem in the right order. 5x plus 1 minus 3x minus 2. Making sure you keep the parentheses at the beginning when you write the problem, so that when we actually go to solve the problem, you're subtracting this whole second quantity, not just the 3x. So you're subtracting the 3x, but you're also subtracting the negative or the minus 2. A big mistake that people make in these problems is that they'll write it without the parentheses. So let me just show you real quick over here. And then what happens if you write it without the parentheses is you're okay with the 3x, but then you forget that you're subtracting the minus 2, and then that ends up being incorrect, the second part. So be careful. Make sure you include minus, the minus, or negative 2. So that becomes a plus, actually. Then we're going to combine our like terms, 5x minus 3x, and then we have plus 1 and plus 2. So we have 2x plus 3 feet greater for our final answer. All right, here's a challenge question for you. I'm not going to have you actually solve this whole thing. What I want you to do is tell me what 2 steps you would need to do in order to solve it. So the question says a triangle has a perimeter of 15x plus 7 units. If the 2 sides are 8x plus 4 and 3x plus 2, find the length of the third side. So we have a triangle. It doesn't really matter what type of triangle it is. It's just saying the perimeter, which is the sum of all 3 sides, is 15x plus 7. And then it's telling us that 2 of the 3 sides, we don't know which ones, it doesn't matter. 2 of the 3 sides are 8x plus 4, so let's just say that this is 8x plus 4, and this is 3x plus 2. What is the third side? So I want you to tell me what 2 steps would you do to solve this problem. And then if you want to solve it for some extra practice, you can. I will share that answer as well in case you tried it so you can see how you did. Okay, so the 2 steps are to add sides 1 and 2, and then, step 2 is to subtract your answer from step 1 from the total. So what we would need to do first is we would add 8x plus 4 plus 3x plus 2. That would give us a sum of 11x plus 6. And then we would take our total, 15x plus 7, and we're going to subtract that 11x plus 6 from it. So we're going to take our answer from here, and we're going to bring it down, the total minus the sum of sides 1 and 2. So if you do that, you're going to be 15x minus 11x is 4x, and 7 minus 6 is a 1. So 4x plus 1 is our answer for the length of the third side.